One of the things when Nina and I were with you and just seeing the congregation there on retreat, that you're part of this has also been ways in which God is drawing, while your core was Asian American and even primarily Chinese American, God's been mixing that group up a bunch over the last few years.
Well, that's a very live conversation for us, and so we qualify as multiracial based on the
way to
study.
do data.
But I think we are finding, and especially in today's climate, that racialization and there's some just really real barriers that prevent folks from joining a church like ours. And but yes, that is a key part of our vision, and we continue to reach out. And yes, we are multi-ethnic now, but we're still largely Asian American, and we're having conversations about what that means. And we set out to be Asian American from the very beginning. It was kind of funny. You're a mostly Asian American church, and you say, we don't want to be an Asian American church. We want to be a multi-ethnic church. And I think that after 15 years, you feel like, oh, you could look at the numbers and sort of feel like we wish we had more diversity in terms of numbers. But I feel like the kinds of real relationships and conversations that we're having now, we couldn't have had if we didn't have the kind of trust and long-term relationship built that's gotten to this place. And so we had one series of conversations that we called East Meets West. And in the midst of that, I introduced Russell Jung's research, where he talked about Asian American-led multi-ethnic churches. And he talked about how non-Asian Americans in those churches could actually pay a really high cost emotionally and relationally in order to be there. He was particularly naming whites, whites who are not used to being the minority in a congregation. And our congregation functions out of majority Asian American sensibilities and culture. And so after a long time, it can be hard. And so we had folks able to say, yeah, that actually is true for me. And for our congregation to hear that and to feel the pain, and sort of like, some people wanted to, well, how can we fix that? How can we, but we love you and all that. And you just realize that, well, these dynamics that we say are kind of out there, they're also in here too. And so now what's next with that? I don't know, but we took a break for a while because people were kind of upset when we got to the end of that conversation. You dropped this bomb on us at the end of the conversation. So I just, that's okay. Well, it's been, I don't know, it's been quite a few months, and now we're planning on picking up the conversation in January. And I'll just say the idea of having live conversations like this, I felt also came from some of this missional stuff that we're doing, because our congregation, our background is, and especially Presbyterian, right? You do Bible study, you get together, you do Bible study, but now we have a lot more of, we get together and we have conversation. We do lectio and have the scripture ground us, and then see where that goes, trying to make connections to our own lives and our attentiveness to the neighborhood. And so we've really changed. You were talking about theology earlier, and I think this is theology, but it's also very much practice. We have very tradition practices in terms of when you gather, what you do Bible study, you do prayer, and we're still doing scripture, and we're still praying, we're still listening, but the paradigm has shifted over the years, and that's how we discern God's leading.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, on one hand, just for those of you who are listening in, Danny's wife, Cindy, is Euro-American white. Obviously, I am, and my wife is Chinese American. And so our own lives as in marriage and in family have these questions. They've been part of conversation relationships from the beginning. And there are ways then in the retreat where we had with your church, Nina especially was able to tell stories about being Chinese American in the US and the types of pressures and discomforts and different issues that raises. But then around your tables, as we gave questions about doing cultural autobiographies as a practice, for instance, and we did that parallel with Lectio, we did other things. But it was amazing just watching when we did this retreat with Redeemer Church. We'd asked Danny and Cindy if they wanted wanted middle school kids involved. And we weren't sure how they were going to deal with conversations, and they were engaged. I mean, so all the tables had youth and young adults as well as older adults around these stories of ethnicity and racism and race. And it was just an amazing thing to watch, the level of engagement that was going on around those tables.
Well, because it's very live for them. You know, they go to public school, and in our city, in our neighborhood, you can't get around. It's not just on the TV.
Yeah.
It's our everyday lives. So, yeah, they're engaged because they have questions and they have real life experiences they're trying to sort out.